Ever wondered why you're stuck in a crisis? Then realized there was a previous crisis that everyone took action to survive, but those actions just created the crisis you're now in? Well, that's the current car rental crisis in a nutshell. Buckle up. What's going on, everyone? Vinny back here with your next episode of Not Another Insurance Podcast. And today, we're talking about a current issue that's likely affected many of you, or it will eventually affect you. There is a crisis in the car rental industry, which is making it incredibly difficult for people to get a rental car, either in a timely manner or for a reasonable price. Now, perhaps you've recently ended up in a situation, such as being without a car because it's in the shop getting repaired, or maybe you're planning a fun vacation and you were needing to rent a vehicle to get around. In either situation, you were likely to have experienced an excruciating struggle getting a hold of a rental vehicle. Even when trying to reserve a car ahead of time, many people are having wait times up to 1 or 2 hours for their vehicle to come in. On top of this, the cost for the rental has inflated incredibly since they rented one before the pandemic. There have actually been reports of vehicles costing as high as $300 a day. Now, we make a point to mention the difference we're seeing since before the pandemic, because that is what this is all a result of. Let's break it down. Many car rental businesses have been faced with supply chain problems, and this is a thing in the auto manufacturing industry due to a global microchip shortage, which has affected the manufacturing of semiconductors. So, how did the pandemic cause all this? Well, the pandemic is severely damaging businesses, as we know, and it severely damaged many of the car rental ones. And this was because of many Americans staying home at the time, not going out, and essentially it's killed the demand. But once everything opened up and we have vaccines that have started rolling out, numbers have increased and travel has drastically increased. All of these travelers have been hitting up the rental businesses again, but now there are far fewer cars than there were previously. Back when the pandemic hit, and there was all the shutdown and everything that you probably remember, these companies were practically getting no business. So maybe some, but it was extremely low. So to recoup on serious losses, many companies sold off a number of their rental vehicles from their fleet. And this included dominating companies of the industry, such as Avis, Hertz, and Enterprise. Hertz, for instance, filed for bankruptcy back in the fall of 2020. They luckily emerged from it fall of this year, but you can see how bad this got. Cars sitting on a lot not being used by the rental company not only bring in no money, but they will also depreciate in value. So these companies realized selling many of them quickly might be the best option. Rental companies saw that the only way to survive through the pandemic and shutdowns was to get rid of vehicle leases and make little new purchases. Now, it is important to note that there were petitions for government grants, loans, and bailouts from the American Car Rental Association in the early days of the pandemic, but there were also the airlines doing the same thing. So, with their industry just being overshadowed, car rental companies chose to start selling off their vehicles. It's estimated that 1 out of every 3 cars that were in service before the pandemic hit were sold. I hope there were a lot of people out there taking advantage of those sales. I mean, come on, do it for Black Friday. So it feels safe to say that the timing of this has been a bit bad, just with this whole situation, because now with things opening back up, the economy is trying to come back faster than predicted, which has left many industries underprepared, including the auto manufacturing and car rental industries. The rental companies, they don't have enough vehicles to meet the high number of customers. This is also having a significant effect on the major players in the industry. For example, Avis decreased its fleet size down 28% smaller than in the first quarter. It's pretty significant. This issue is only more exacerbated by the microchip shortage I mentioned earlier. Now, this shortage is global, And most of our modern cars rely on microchips for power infotainment systems, special safety features, and other electronic necessities. When everything was shut down globally, a number of the businesses that had to be closed were factories, which included those in the chip manufacturing industry. A fast increase of demand for consumer electronics during the pandemic, such as laptops, tablets, gaming devices, etc., left factories and supply chains backed up to a crippling level. If there is any indication for how bad this is for car manufacturing, think about this. Any typical newly manufactured car uses around 1,400 microchips. I was gonna pull out a microchip for reference, but oh yeah, they're really hard to find right now. Not only did selling off many of their vehicles during the pandemic to stay afloat lead to companies being short of cars, but the timing has made it incredibly difficult for them to get more vehicles at affordable prices to meet the customer demand. So, what does all this mean for the future? Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a very reasonable solution at the moment. Lines and wait times appear that they will still be up, and increase of demand has only made these costs soar, and in many cases, more than twice what used to be the normal rate. There are efforts from companies like Hertz, however, who are working closely with automotive partners to add new vehicles to their fleet as quickly as possible with the microchip shortage. They're also purchasing low-mileage pre-owned vehicles and moving these vehicles to areas with higher demand. However, there is another possibility for our future. So, another thing to consider are companies that are allowing car owners to rent out their own vehicles to anyone looking for a rental. Companies, for instance, like Turo, have rental services that offer vehicle rentals for less than half the cost you will find from Hertz and the other big competitors. Now, this begs the question, and it's interesting that we haven't seen this brought up more lately, but could major car rental companies see serious competition from services like Turo? It seems very possible that this could be the new car rental option of the future, much in the same way that Uber and Lyft became major competition for the taxi services. One thing is safe to say though, and that's that car rentals are still going to be incredibly vital to many of us. And it is important that we should mention that we at Insurance Navy here have special add-ons to our policies such as roadside assistance, which can offer reimbursement and discounts on car rentals. In the end, you can get a far more affordable rate on that car rental and enjoy that relaxing vacation that you so deserve. Thank you so much for joining me here today. And as always, if you want to do us a favor, click that like button, hit that subscribe, and also tap that dingy bell every time to be notified when we drop new content right here at Insurance Navy. Thank you so much, and I will see you all next time.